right there. Hey, guys, this is Chuck Bryant from the Chuck Bryant Show Unplugged. And let me tell you something. I had to get me the biggest rod and reel that you have ever seen and hook this van that they've got and reel them in. I want to introduce to you some of my very good friends that I've known for quite a few years from Branson. And this group is amazing. If you've not had them in your church, you've not had them in your nursing home, if you've not had them at one of your concert events, you are missing such a blessing. This guy over here, his name is Jerry Mays and his lovely wife, Sharon Mays, and they traveled together to known as, what's the name of that group? Oh, it's right, Heart to Heart. The original Heart to Heart. There's many so groups out there that, you know, we play a lot of their music on WOTG and Branson Gospel Radio, but this is Heart to Heart. And they have a program that comes on our program. Be looking for it. It'll be coming at 8 o'clock on WOTG, and we share it throughout the network. And now they're coming to Branson and stuff. So, Jerry and Sharon, tell me a little bit how Heart to Heart got started.
Well,
I told you I was going to ask
him.
him.
God kind of pounded on me. He whispered for a while, and I didn't listen because we had good jobs and benefits and paid vacations and, you know, that stuff that people have, new car once in a while. And God said, put that stuff down and do what I need you to do. I need you to go full time, and I need you to do it right now.
Yep.
I said, but what about all we've got going? He said, I'll take care of you if you will do my business. I was doing the laundry or something. I wasn't in church. I mean, God just kept on. And I said, Jerry, we've got to listen because this is not stopping. God is telling us we've got to do something full time. He said, time is short. I need you to work for me. And you know how you sometimes worry about your credit card and how it's going to get paid and that sort of thing. Let me tell you something. We've been Heart to Heart full time for over 12 years now. Mm-hmm. And not once have we done without. God has always provided. And there have been some miracles in the process, and we've gone all over the country. We've met wonderful people, and we've had some unusual situations where we were able to minister because God put us in a position to do that, and we're thankful.
Well, one of the things that I love the most about Heart to Heart, it's not boring. And I'm serious. You come up, Jerry, with a new skit every time that I see y'all. One of the first things that I liked about you, Jerry, was when I went to, when I first met y'all down in Oklahoma, and I came back, y'all were singing, and the next thing, and I go, who's the Elvis impersonator on the stage? And it was you. And I was never really a big fan of Elvis, and I know everybody goes, you didn't like Elvis? Listen, as a youngster growing up in 1978 or 77, whenever Elvis passed away, my aunt was a big fan of Elvis. And if you had to grow through what I went through my early years and teenage years, going into my aunt's bedroom, even after she had left, and you would stay with your grandma, and you would look all over the room. Every newspaper article, everything had Elvis's picture all over, and you're going, is this a shrine, or is this... You get what I'm saying.
But you know, he's kind of spoofing the people sometimes, and I know some people that are tribute artists, and I love them. But Jerry's funny. He's got a rubber head.
That's what I'm saying. His Jerry has got, and Jerry loves to rebrand himself every time. Today it may be you know this, and tomorrow it may be that. But, you know, that's what makes you a great group to come out and to minister people.
We feel like you can have variety in any kind of a program. And our calling has two arms. God said go inside the churches and help everybody you can and refresh your own self. Mm-hmm. But go outside the churches and bring me every soul you can. So we do... When we go to the Rio Grande Valley, we usually tour for 3 months down there, almost on the Mexico line.
Yep.
And we sing in every church we can get. We sing in hotels, we sing in festivals, we sing in resorts, and we're probably the only group in the Rio Grande Valley that makes our program around iced tea and cookies instead of something a little stronger than that. But we've had people right in the middle of a family show come up and say, you mentioned a lighthouse earlier, but we had some come up, Valentine's dinner. Yeah. And they said, do you know Lighthouse? 6 men. And we said yes, and they said, would you sing it for us? Now, this was a family show. It wasn't necessarily, it had gospel in it, but it wasn't all gospel. We sang it, and 6 people made that stage an altar.
Oh, let me tell you something.
We stopped our program and prayed right then.
Ronnie, if you're watching the program, just pay attention. But anyway, Ronnie Henson, back in 2015, I was at a church down in Fort Myers, and I got to meet Ronnie Henson.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I never even knew that Ronnie existed, because when you see the Hensons, it was always his brother out there.
Yeah.
And if it was the singer, it was Chris that did the other stuff. Ronnie and Larry were in the back. Yeah. And so I didn't ever get to meet Larry. I never did get to meet Kenny. But I have met Chris, and I have met Ronnie. Yeah. And I was down in Fort Myers in 2018, and Ronnie was back at that church. And I come walking in, just because it was there, I was coming as a fan, not as radio at that time, because we'd already did a whole entire weekend of radio. I did a concert at a church in Seminole. I went with Appointed Two. We were down at Punta Gorda. I'm down at Fort Myers that night to listen to Ronnie Henson, and then I'm leaving town. I'm coming back up here. And so anyway, I walked up to him and I go, do you remember me? And he goes, yeah, you're the radio guy. So to me, Ronnie Henson knew who I was, and I get to watch him and Lisa sometimes, when they're doing their cast. Yeah. But one of the greatest things that I've seen about y'all in the last 2 years is this new program that you've got, that you've been doing. And my thing is that during this time that we've had in the last year and a half that we've had to deal with, because it's even affected me, because I had to come off the road, and I like to go into conventions and stuff like that, not along with my wife being sick with her illness that she's got. And listen, if you got a kidney infection, or if you got anything going on and you're listening to this program, sepsis is a killer. You need to go get it checked out. That's your line today for sepsis. But anyway, y'all have just tore Facebook up. And I was watching this program. How long has it been? It's been, what, almost 3 months now, 4 months? And I was watching y'all, and I go, wow. And then I was sitting there one Saturday, and I said, okay, I'm thinking about this. I'm really thinking about this. And then I got to get in touch with you. And so, and then there we go. We're working together on something. We've been wanting to work together for years, and just could not figure out a way, because, traveling from Branson to Florida, well, you know what a ride that is.
We just took part of that ride.
Yeah. And if you stop off in Chattanooga, you may take a nap. I just saying, you may take a nap, because I took the drive and drove straight up from here to Branson. I'll never do. Well, I drove up to Branson, had to work for some equipment at Branson Gospel Radio. I stayed at Miss Vicky's house. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you right now.
Paxton's wife.
Very, very super natural, down to heart, and she opens you open arms. And she took me through the house, and I seen more. I thought I seen all the old radio equipment.
Like a museum, isn't it?
Oh my gosh! I went a couple years ago to Billy Graham's thing, and I never knew that Billy Graham was into radio and had his own radio station and had his own TV station and stuff. So here I am, just now starting to do the radio and the TV, and I'm walking through there, and I'm going, like a kid in a candy store, and
it's
thinking,
hard to believe that Gary S. Paxton wrote Monster Mash, and then on the other side of the coin, he wrote he was there all the time.
Well, you know what got me was the Monster Mash alley-oop. And as a kid, growing up with my mom and dad, every was on that old thing was Gary Paxton, the Monster Mash, and all those funny things that came out in the 60s and the 50s was all Gary Paxton.
Yeah, I know. And Miss Vicky she's just a sweetheart, too. She's got a couple songs she wants us to record. We're gonna have to get over there and talk to her.
Well,
about that.
I'm planning on going to Braxton. Listen to me. I'm planning on going to Branson later this year if money and things allow. And I called Miss Vicky up and I said, "Hey, Miss Vicky, can I come by and see you?" "Yes, Chuck, you sure can." And it just like
She's
she
a
is
sweetheart.
such and she is. If you ever get to meet Miss Vicky Paxton, she is all about Gary and about his gospel music and his legacy. So we're gonna, while we're in Branson, we're gonna do a stage interview with her, and hoping to get her program back out there
Yeah.
that talks about Gary and stuff. So
that's
we're
a great
working
one.
on that. But y'all have just opened up. And it's common because, somebody goes Facebook Live and they'll say, "Hey, I'll be here." And then the next time they're not there. And then people get, but y'all are like clockwork.
Well, we've got a devoted team up there. You can't. It takes a village to raise this child, I think. But we started. We call it Branson to Kansas City praise concerts, and we started it when COVID was so bad and locked everything down. And we started to say, how can we keep our ministry going out there when we can't get into many churches or anything right now? And so I talked to some people I know up there, and all of them are with Country Gospel Music Association. And they've become devoted friends. We make really good fellowship meals before we record, too. Chuck, if you're ever with us, you got to come in for that. But
Somebody please have the napkins because I'm sure I see maybe a turned buffalo somewhere down the line.
You just come on over. We double bass right now out of Branson and Kansas City. And we, about once a month or so, we even take our program out on site to different churches and gospel music venues to give them a chance to get back out there. And also, it's a blessing to us. But
Well,
when we started this, we thought it was only going to be 2 or 3. It was Sundays at the time. Now we're on Saturdays. 2 or 3 Saturdays. And people started asking us to continue. And I would just have hundreds of notes saying, "You've blessed us today. You were our church today."
Well, the thing about it is the first time I caught the program because I'm always looking for something to put on our TV. It's great to have programs that and I'm not mentioning no names because of the liability, but we carry the Perry Stone program, we carry Jesse Duplantis, and I want to make sure that I've got that programming on there. But the thing about it is if we put all these other programs on there, we're just another Christian TV thing. And to me is I want to put family, wholesome Christian programming on there that's not in a studio, that's not somewhere. And then when I caught this and I said, "Oh, I know what y'all do. I've known y'all for years." And I said, "I'm going to reach out to you." And I reached out to you one afternoon and I said, "Hey, Sharon, how about you bring that to WOTG?" And then before you know it, I moved you over to WGHC, which I'm in partners with Marty Smith. And Marty is such a sweetheart.
We've worked with Marty for years and years through Heaven's Country, and we've attended a lot of conventions and that sort of thing with him too.
Well,
Real deal.
the thing is, and I'm going to give you a little history about WGHC TV. I was sitting there one night feeling sorry for myself because I've been injured for over a year. And my shoulder hurts and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there one night and I'm praying to God. And I'm watching these other TV stations or IPTV stations on Roku and stuff. And I go, I've already got 2 stations on Roku. Let me talk to Marty. I hadn't even prayed to God about it yet, but I said, let me talk to Marty. And some people want to know what's WGHC stand for. Do you know?
HC's Heaven's Country. Mm-hmm. WG, tell me for sure.
WOTG.
I don't want to mess you up. I knew it was the first and last of your call letters.
Yeah, and so when we because if you listen to Marty's
I'm
program,
assuming and hope that G's for God.
Well, let me tell you something. I'll tell you a story after I finish this one. WOTG started in 1919. Well, we started. God came to me in 2009, and we were talking about doing a radio station. up here in North Georgia.
Yeah.
And I went back and I said, God, it's just going to cost too much money to build a radio station. We're talking thousands and thousands. We're not talking just a couple $100. We're talking $10,000 to $100,000 to get a traditional radio station. Well, they're not giving out any more licensed traditional radio stations. You have to buy them. Yeah. And so anyway, I came back. I said, God, here's all the paperwork. And, you know, God already knows the answer before you ever do anything.
He does.
And
best thing you can do, just leave him alone, let him do his work.
I'm not fighting with him anymore, Sharon.
No, can't win.
You can't. And so anyway, so we started putting together, and that was in 2010. And I went to meet a good friend of mine up here that he was just in the studios a couple of weeks ago, and I went to Jonathan Bond before I ever knew anybody. I knew Jonathan Bond, and I went up there, and Jonathan and I sat down and talked, and we had dinner, and Jonathan told me what I needed to do. So there's another level of the 7 years that we're going, or 5 years we're going into this.
We've known you all this time from far.
Yeah.
We don't get to see you every day, but we've known you, and you've been a dear friend. So I'm so excited to see what God's doing.
And God has moved this ministry from radio to TV.
I've watched it.
And and there has been times that I have lost battles with this, that I'd want to shut everything down and just do the TV. Yeah. Well, I got orders here to come Wednesday of next week on July 1st, on Thursday, that the WOTG radio has its number one DJ coming back for radio. And I'll be back on the air starting playing, doing traffic and everything else, just like a morning show.
The Lord.
But anyway, and me and Marty got together because we were supposed to do this event down in Oklahoma with y'all back in 2015. Well, Marty couldn't make the trip, and that would have been our first thing that we ever did together. And today, Marty's going to be in the studio later tonight, but that's another program for another time.
I'm going to miss him, but Marty, if you're listening, I love you, brother.
And he's so excited. He told me to tell both of y'all that he loved y'all, and he hates that he's going to meet you. But y'all have got a 6-hour time span from when they're leaving Nashville. Yeah. He's filming the Nashville Corner, which is going to be airing on WOTG TV and WGHC. But the thing about it is bringing y'all over to the network and having your time slot, and as of dealing with filming for y'all's program and everything. So we're going to start airing your program now at 8 o'clock. Yep. So be looking for the program, and it also airs because when we rip the video, we bring it to Branson Gospel Radio, and that's the only where you can listen to Heart after their program is on radio. It's going to be kind of hard to get the little lady that holds up the little box that has everybody's phone numbers on it. So you may want to give me those numbers at the end of the program to where the people can get them into, because there is a church that is dying, I know, somewhere in Branson or Kansas. And you know what? And I'm going to tell you this, and you're going to think really funny of me. I did not know that they was a Kansas, Missouri. I thought it was Kansas, Kansas. And I didn't learn that until 2 years ago.
Missouri.
But the greatest thing is, I love Missouri. I had never been there until I was invited to come up to the luncheon of Branson Gospel Radio that we did back in 2017, and how people opened up a Southern Gospel radio station to come to Branson. And that doesn't happen. And I love it. I love it. You know, some of my favorite singers comes through there. Brenda Denny from Second Generation has been to Silver Dollar City. Now, that's a place that's just waiting for a hoot to happen. I'm going to tell you right now. There's amazing what God could do in that place.
They have a lot of stuff going on. I don't know as much. I don't know if they're back full steam, but maybe pretty close from COVID year. So,
go ahead, Jerry. You're good.
See you later, alligator. Jerry's wobbly.
Jerry's
We've been on the road for like 14 hours before we got here, so y'all just.
I understand. Well, Jerry will be back with us. He's got to go walk the hush puppies, and them shoes, them definitely some hush puppies, brother.
Every day's a challenge with him.
I understand.
You know,
well,
it's never a dull moment.
You know the thing I love so much about Jerry, he's Jerry. He's Jerry in the morning. He's Jerry at night. There's no change in him.
He's just liable to say anything. But a greater heart for God you'd never find. He's just a bit peculiar once in a while. And if he gets that Elvis Mesley persona going, he's really peculiar. So we just
Well,
we just have a good time. With
you know, I growing up, it's like I was telling you earlier, I never was a really big Elvis fan. And it's just like with Johnny Cash. These artists, and I growed up listening to country music when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And my thing of it is, my parents always, that rock and roll, and y'all have heard me say this before on the program, that rock and roll ain't no good. The first time that I ever got to listen to rock and roll was in 1982 when I had my very own bedroom and I didn't have somebody overlooking me. I turned it on. I listened to the Casey Kasem show, and the first song that came across was by an artist named Prince, and that song was Little Red Corvette. And I'm just and I'm thinking of a person driving a little red Corvette, and I didn't understand what the personas is of everybody talking about this song, but I didn't know what I know now. And I got to talking with my dad, and I said, Dad, why are you telling me that I can't listen to rock and roll? I wasn't in church. I wasn't even saved then, but this is how this was dealing with me. And I said, country music coming out of the 70s into the 80s. You've got Conway Twitty with all of his songs.
Darling.
There you go. Or Linda on My Mind, or Joni, or any of the rest of them. That's where I'm going to stop with that. And you got all these country songs that are talking about, well, I'm just going to knock the walls down in my house, and you've got a bar to come to. And it's who's cheating with who's sleeping with who's at the bar, and all this other stuff going on. And this was country music coming into the 80s. And I said, if I'm listening to rock and roll, what's the difference between the two?
You can have good and bad in any kind of music. And that's, if you hear Heart to Heart, you notice we have several different styles of gospel music that we sing. And it may have, like for instance, we sing I Saw the Light, but we have a Carl Perkins 56 rock and roll background music in it.
Right.
And you'd be surprised when you go into a place where not everybody is from a church. They will connect with that sound, that 56 rock and roll, Carl Perkins, Elvis kind of a sound. Then you throw I Saw the Light in there. And it's like they're getting fed. We do a lot of crossovers like that. We do I Wish It Would Rain. Temptations put that out back in the 60s. And if you listen to us long enough, we got a little doo-wop in us along with everything else.
You heard it right here.
But we have found that if people can latch on to something that pulls their ears to you, then you can feed them with the lyrics of the song.
Well, it's funny that you say that, Sharon, because right now I have 2 radio stations, and I've admitted it to everybody. I have a country station and I have a rock station. And everybody asks me why. And I take the country sound that you may be listening to Waylon Jennings. You may be listening to Johnny Cash. You may be listening to Merle Haggard. And then all of a sudden, you've got a Christian country song that comes in maybe by Chuck Day or Chuck Hancock or any of the other artists. And I slip that in. And then over on my rock channel, you may be listening to the Bee Gees, you may be listening to Elvis, or you may be listening to Survivor or any of the big rock groups from the 80s and 70s. And then I slip in something called the Newsboys and God Is Not Dead, or, all this. And so I blend this in, and my ratings are so high on these 2 particular channels. And then on Sunday, I throw programming in that's all about Christ.
It's the way you can't always preach to the pews, and that's hard for people to understand. I love singing in churches. It encourages them and encourages us. It recharges our batteries. But you got it, and we sing an old song, our new quartet with the Branson Kansas City Praise. Our new quartet is called Mo Praise, and it's Jerry and me and Christy Minot and Doug Spence. And we sing a song called Step Into the Water.
Heard it many times.
Old Southern gospel song. We might have a little updated background in it. But it's you stick that out in the middle of a bunch of other stuff, people are going to listen to it. They're going to hear what it says.
But the greatest thing about what you and Jerry do and the Branson Groove, your radio program, which I've been interviewed on there too.
Yeah,
And
I need to do you again too. Pretty soon.
anytime. And the thing about it is that each time y'all come with a new program, you got a lot of people on there.
Oh yeah.
And the thing about it is that I thought it was a great set, like I was telling earlier, about bringing it to the TV. Because now that's what I'm trying to do. I'm going out and hitting the Roku. I'm going out to YouTube, watching these people that does it. And we just brought a new program on to the TV called Talk with Mama. And it's a very interesting program. They get back and they say some of their songs. Their family goes back a long time in singing and gospel music. But, you know, to me, I don't see barriers when it comes to gospel music.
Oh, I don't.
And
I don't. A 3 or 4 minute gospel song can break down every barrier there is and go right through to the heart and soul. And that's what we believe, and that's why we've been out there. When you don't feel good, when you'd rather just stay home, we go. Because you might be the only light somebody has that day.
well, you know, it's amazing that you say that, because if you look at the variety of different musics out there, there's some that is so hard out there. You just, how can they touch someone? But God does it. Hang on just one second.
Y'all don't ever mind. That's just Jerry rambling around out there.
Hey, listen.
Bless his heart.
This is the Unplugged show on the Chuck Bryant show, and Brother Jerry just going out to stretch his tired feet. He's been driving, hitting that brake. Anybody that's had to go through the Tampa traffic, the Atlanta traffic, and soon y'all gonna be going up I-24, ain't you?
Yeah, we'll go through outside of Nashville and through Paducah, Kentucky.
Going to
then
Kentucky.
We hit Branson and
What was that?
eventually go to
What
Kansas
was that
City.
song that Elvis sung? Was what, Blue Kentucky Rain or something like that?
Moon of Kentucky.
Oh, that's what it was. I knew it was something like that. There's been a lot of great songs that's come out of Kentucky.
This Elvis sings Peace in the Valley and Only Believe. Well, in our other show, he even sings Hound Dog, and he takes it into schools. He has a little puppy, and we take it into schools and talk about bullying. I mean, you ain't nothing but a hound dog. Well, we're telling them that even a hound dog has worth, and you don't
most
bully
definitely.
people. And Elvis has had a chance to teach little kids that way, so you never know.
You know, I was watching a program the other night on YouTube, and they were talking about Elvis, and to me, you learn a lot watching YouTube. But anyway, the stuff that Elvis did in his time, he was not just Elvis the movie star, Elvis the rock and roller. I didn't know that he had a fundraiser that he did every year where even when he was alive, there's a check that's written, a large amount of money that goes to several different ministries in Memphis that a lot of people didn't know about. And that is still done today, even by Lisa Marie or Vasila. Yeah.
He did a lot of things. He was a friend of my dad's. My dad actually did a summer tour with him one time. My dad was a edgy rock and roll musician back in the 50s and 60s with Narvel Felts and the Rockets. And he knew Conway Twitty, for instance, when he was Harold Jenkins. Yeah. He knew all those guys, and he knew Elvis. And we know that he went out on holidays and took things to people that didn't have enough for Christmas or for Thanksgiving after his. And we also knew J.D. Sumner that sang bass with him, and Richard Sturban, who's with the Oak Ridge Boys now. Yeah. But Elvis, after his concerts, would get around the piano with all of his singers, and until daylight, they sang gospel music because that was Elvis's favorite music all the time. He did the other because that's what his managers want him to do. But when he sang what he wanted to, he was singing gospel music.
Did you know that he originally wanted to be a Southern gospel Christian country artist, and they told him, that he just didn't fit? And that's but the thing about it is that his right before he passed, the last record he produced was his gospel album.
And we sing. He got a Grammy for that album, and we sing Peace in the Valley, his version, off of that album, because that's the only album he ever got a Grammy for.
Now,
Only gospel album, yeah.
a little trivia for you guys that have been around for a long time that know Elvis. There was a little gentleman that was down in Macon, Georgia, and he's from Georgia, and he was a very excellent guitar player. 1969. Now this is on his album, so it's not something I'm just coming up and saying, but he was called to Memphis or Nashville, wherever they were cutting the record at that time, and said the king wants you to be on his album, and he wants you to play this song. Who was that artist?
Carl Perkins? I don't know.
No.
Don't know.
Jerry Reed.
Jerry Reed.
With the
How
U.S.
about
Mail.
I like
Jerry
that too.
Reed told a story on one of his albums and I was a big Jerry Reed fan. I thought when I first started cutting my teeth, Hot Your Hot was out, and if
Yeah.
that tells you anything. But anyway, he said in his album that he was sitting on the creek bank down in Macon, Georgia, or somewhere in that area fishing, and they were looking for him, and his wife come looking for him and says, "Hey, they want you in Nashville." And so he goes to the studio, and they call him, "Why do you need me up there?" And says, "Well, Elvis with the Jordanaires wants you to come up, and he wants you to play, he wants to record your song, the U.S. Mail." And he said, "The king is calling me to come to Nashville." He said, "What greater honor?"
What do? You put down your stuff and you go.
Go. And so he gets up there, and I think this is like 1967 or 1968 when he did this. And then he told Elvis, or told Jerry, he says, "I want you to tour with me that whole entire year to play guitar on the album." And he said he was amazed by that. And that album was cut way back in the 70s, and I can't tell you which one it is. I think it was one of his live albums. But he said he got that call. And of course, he come out with a song a couple years later called the Tupelo, Mississippi Flash.
Oh.
And it was his story of Elvis. And I always wondered, I said, where in the world? And he says, "Well, not only am I now the bus driver, the plane driver, I'm working for that U.S. Mail." But it's
That's amazing.
Well, what's on the horizon for Heart to Heart?
Well, I think you're part of our horizon, Chuck. We are so excited to be on 4 TV stations now.
Yes, ma'am.
And the Branson Gospel Radio, where we do the Branson Gospel Groove. And we are picking up now and starting to tour more. But we just got, as far as I know, we'll be on the Grand Ole Opry again next year. They called it off for this June, but we're already booked in for next year. We'll probably go back down to the Valley, but we don't know. I mean, we've got a new album we've got to get cut. We're ready to go with some new material, and we're having to switch studios and switch the people that make our background tracks, because I use a lady right out of Cleveland, Georgia. Is it Cleveland, Georgia?
Yes, Cleveland, Georgia.
Yes. It's Rose of Sharon Productions. She's done 17 or 18 of our tracks. She's great. Most people, when I write to them and I say, or talk to them, and I say, I want this to be Southern gospel with a country twinge, and by the way, I want a B3 Hammond and a saxophone in it. They look at me like, "Say what?" She gets it. So we were waiting on her to get back in, but we've got material for a new album. We already know, we are part supporters of the Jimmy Jack Foundation, who provides scholarships and instruments for kids.
I'm going to tell you right now, I forgot to tell you, this is live. But anyway, I made a slip again and hit the record button. I hit the start button. So we are live on Facebook.
Oh.
But anyway.
Well, all right.
But anyway.
Hi, everybody.
It reminds me of that little commercial that they do when you did that. Reminds me of that little bitty boy that were there on the St. Jude's commercial, and he goes, "Hi, people." But anyway, Jimmy Jack. Tell me a little bit about Jimmy Jack.
He's a character. He's a good friend of ours, and he's one of the best guitar players in this world. But his heart is for kids. And the Jimmy Jack Foundation is a foundation based out of Oklahoma, but they're all over the country, all over the world. And they provide, and we help with that. We're proud to do that. They provide scholarships, money, instruments, lessons, whatever kids need, especially in music and ministry, but whatever kids need to make their musical dreams come true. And I've watched him. He will sleep in his van to give a kid whatever he made that day.
You know, I got to meet Jimmy Jack. I've heard all kinds of stuff about Jimmy Jack. And everybody, Jimmy Jack this and Jimmy Jack
he's
that.
A mess. But
Oh, yes, he is, but don't let him know I said, oh, this is not Memorex, it is live. But anyway, I got to meet him back in 2017, and I believe y'all were the first ones to introduce me to Jimmy Jack, if I'm not right. But anyway, I loved his foundation because to me, when I was growing up, I wanted to learn how to play the trumpet. I did not want to learn how to play the guitar, and that's what my family pushed me to. And then finally, Mom and Dad said, let you do it. And then they took my dreams away because they sent my trumpet back.
oh no,
And I'm going to the heartland of where playing a trumpet is crucial because some of the greatest trumpet players have come out of one of the, I want to say, the great city of not what it's known for, but the music that's come out of New Orleans as the jazz and stuff. And then you've got Chuck Mangione that's come out of that area. You've
Where's
got
Satchmo
Kenny
from?
G.
Where's Louis
Satchmo, the
Armstrong?
great Satchmo from New Orleans.
He's from New Orleans.
Yeah, Louis Armstrong. And
We
they're,
is what a wonderful world too.
you know, and the funny thing is that listening to him down there and some of the great artists that's come out of New Orleans. Now, see, I'm a big jazz. You know, I love jazz. And I spent as a teen down in New Orleans in Jackson Square listening to some of those, what they called juke joints back in the time, and you'd hear all the great artists playing there. One night I was sitting in the French Quarter, and here comes this artist that everybody knows from the 60s and the 50s. And he gets in there and he starts hitting that piano and start playing it, and he would hit Blueberry Hill.
Oh,
And
are you talking about the Blueberry Hill guy?
I am talking about Fats Domino himself. Mom took care of him when she was in nursing school in New Orleans.
Oh man.
And the funny thing is, a lot of people didn't know where his compound was. He called it the compound. And what it was if you lived in New Orleans, you got one side, it would be Judge Perez, and you got the other side, the St. Bernard Highway, and we lived in St. Bernard. Well, Mom was going to nursing school down there, at a school down there, and one of her jobs was taking care of Fats Domino's because Fats Domino's had a bad diabetes problem. He'd had it for a long time. But he was up there, and I got to hear him play. And then one night, it was just a bunch of people in one of the restaurants that were just jamming.
Yeah.
And Pete Fountain had just closed down his place, and Chuck Mangione was in the town.
Plenty of music.
And
down there.
that they said that night that history had been made because Louis Armstrong's grandson was playing in there too, and I didn't know. I knew none of these guys was until that night, and they were playing, and that was such a great thing. Well, music. Go ahead.
Let me go back just a minute to the Jimmy Jack Foundation. Can I mention a couple of events coming up?
Sure, go right ahead.
All right, we are the producers and part of the team for the Missouri Mid-South Gospel Music Convention. This year it's held in Dexter, Missouri, and I hope Chuck is going to be with us. We're talking about this, and I hope he can be, because we're going to have a lot of the folks we've talked about there, including Jimmy Jack and Bud and Linda Lynn from Branson.
Love those guys.
Yeah, I do too. And that is going to be September 10th and 11th at the Lair Event Center in Dexter, Missouri, at the corner of Highway 25 and Highway 60. We have over 30 groups in 2 days. Stellar gospel music. If you get a chance to come out that way, please do, because it is just, it fills up, and it's good gospel music all night for 2 nights. We've got Will Thornton running our sound, and he is from Nashville. He actually ran sound for Casting Crowns for a long time. He's just been out on tour with Toby Mac, so he knows what he's doing with the sound. And he's going to be there with us. We've got a lot of groups, and we've got country, gospel, southern gospel, maybe a little sort of contemporary. If you're in the Missouri, you're going to have a little southern country in you somewhere.
Well, you know,
That's one thing coming up.
it's funny that you talk about that, is because we have talked about a lot of artists today, from Elvis to the great James Marvell. And James, if you're ever in the Chattanooga area, look me up.
By the way, James, I would love for you to come to our convention. If you're in the area, you give me a call and we'll get you on stage. I know the lady that gets people on stage, so I can do that for you.
Jerry, do you know that lady? Well, guys, it's great. And if we want to get you into a concert in Missouri, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana,
we travel all over the country.
Cleveland, Tennessee, Dalton,
I would love
Georgia.
to sing here. This church is wonderful. We would love, and we have a second home in the Boot Heel of Missouri. It's not very far. It's 5 hours, I think, or something, 4 or 5 to here. So yes, Cleveland, Nashville, Chattanooga, Dalton is easy reach for us. And we would even bring our praise team from the Facebook Live concerts that are airing on WOTG and WGHC and on
Branson Gospel. No
TV.
W's.
We can even bring our team for that as well if we plan enough ahead. And then we've got a quartet with that, a couple of solos, and then Heart to Heart, of course.
Well, we'll see if we can't. We'll try to get you in a concert or something around here and see if we can raise some funds that would help you out.
Just a little mini tour and get in here. I would love it. Let me give you some information how to reach us. And by the way, every Saturday we have our Facebook Live, and then at 8 o'clock that night, Eastern Time. Now, our Facebook is 4 o'clock Eastern, but it's 3 o'clock Central where we are. And then we come on Chuck's TV stations at 8 o'clock that night. And I think we're also on through the week a couple of times.
Yes, you are.
Branson Gospel Radio has our Branson Gospel Groove, and it's on 6 days a week at 2 o'clock
at 2 o'clock.
Eastern time. So just want to tell you that. And if you're in Branson coming up anytime soon, we are at the Ball Knobbers on July 4th at 2 o'clock. So come on out to the Ball Knobbers. Heart to Heart will be there. And also on the 12th of July, we will be at the Celebrity Theater at Point Royale in Branson. So a couple of Branson dates for you. Well, you need a phone number or something, don't you?
You know, the thing is I don't like to give out phone numbers on here because those people that just big heart-to-heart fans, 3 o'clock in the morning when you're trying to get some sleep, they go, hey, can we get you to come down to our church tomorrow? We're
You call me anytime if you need us to come to your church. I'll wake up and answer the phone.
We'll go ahead.
We are on Facebook. That is Sharon Mays in parentheses, Heart to Heart. You can catch us anywhere. Chuck can get to us, and it's hearttoheartmusicgroup.com. Our schedule is not updated, but you can see a lot of information and promo videos, that sort of thing on there. And I think we're going to start running some things on YouTube. We're working with Chuck on that. So you can find Heart to Heart all different ways. We want you to find us. We want to come your way because that's what we do. That's who we are. As I told Chuck, we don't know how to unpack a suitcase. We just keep it packed up and put clean clothes in it because we're on the road.
I'm gonna tell you right now, the mule's still trying to catch up with the trailer as fast as you guys travel. Well, guys, y'all been listening to the Chuck Bryant Show Unplugged on WGHC TV, and we'll be re-airing this. But this is the Chuck Bryant Show Unplugged, and my very good friends Jerry and Sherry Mays from Heart to Heart here with us today. Until next time, which is 6 hours from now, and in the studio is the future Hall of Famer, Mr. Marty Smith. And my brother is, I'm going to tell you right now, I have learned a lot in radio and everything else. Listen, I'm the guy that knows everything when it comes to a computer, and you will hear my brother tell you on air who is the technician behind all this radio. It would be me, and I take care of a lot of radio stations, and I help a lot of radio stations out there help get started. But you've been listening to the Chuck Bryant Show Unplugged here at the FWC Studios in Cleveland, Tennessee. We'd love to have you here. If you're an artist, you're an author, you're a preacher, musician, anything that deals with a ministry, I'm your guy to talk to. Look me up on Chuck Bryant on Facebook. And until next time, guys, we love you. We will see you in this air. This program will air again very soon. God bless until we see you next time.
God bless.